One winter's day, while a beautiful queen was sewing by the window, she pricked her finger with the needle. A drop of blood came out. The queen said to herself, "How I wish for a daughter with skin as now. May her mouth be red like blood. May her hair be black like the window frame." Before long, her wish came true. The queen had a pretty daughter, who she named Snow White. Soon after, the queen died, and 1 year later, the king married another lady, who was very beautiful but very unkind. The new queen had a magic mirror. Every time she looked into it, she asked, "Mirror, mirror, who is the most beautiful of them all?" The mirror answered, "Oh, you, your majesty. You are the most beautiful of them all." When the queen heard the answer, she laughed with pleasure. Several years passed. Snow White grew into a sweet, beautiful girl loved by everyone. Fearing that Snow White would become more beautiful than herself, the queen forced her to put on ragged old clothes, scrub the floor and wash the dishes every day from dawn to dusk. One day while Snow White was walking to the well in the garden, the queen looked at her with envy and spite. The queen was so scared of the girl's beauty. She hurried to ask the mirror the same question. Its answer surprised her. "Oh, lovely and beautiful though you are, Snow White is the most beautiful of them all." The queen screamed angrily. The heartless queen ordered a huntsman to lure Snow White into a deep forest. "Kill her. Put her heart in this box and bring it back to me." The next morning the huntsman accompanied Snow White into the forest. She picked flowers and greeted wild animals along the way. "Poor girl," he said to her, "run and never ever go back to the palace. The queen will hurt you." Snow White was so frightened she ran aimlessly into the forest. The huntsman killed a deer and took its heart to the queen. Snow White wandered aimlessly until it was getting dark. Then she came across a little cottage with nobody in it. On the dining table were 7 sets of little dishes, little mugs, and little spoons. In the bedroom, there were 7 little beds. After she had cleaned the cottage, she lay on the beds and fell asleep. When it was dark, the 7 dwarfs whose cottage it was came home. Surprisedly, they said, "How clean our Leevilk is." The dwarfs rushed into the bedroom. They went to the beds, and when they saw Snow White, they exclaimed in unison, "As beautiful as a fairy she is." Snow White woke up and saw them smiling warmly. She told them her story, and the dwarfs felt so sorry for her that they asked her to live with them. Snow White cried she was so grateful to them, and from then on, the little cottage was filled with joy and laughter. At the palace, the queen laughed happily, thinking that Snow White was dead. She asked the magic mirror again, this time with confidence. But when it answered, "Snow White in the dwarf's cottage is the most beautiful of them all," she decided to disguise herself as an old woman and went to the cottage carrying a basket of poison apples. The old woman knocked on the door and asked, "Please give me some water." the kind-hearted Snow White gave her at once. The prince kissed her gently on the lips. Snow White's eyes opened. The 7 dwarfs jumped, laughed, and danced with joy. Prince took Snow White to his castle, where they were married and lived happily ever after. When the queen learned what had happened, she was so heartbroken that she lost her sanity. She into the forest and had never been seen again.